I've been a compulsive liar for my whole life. Hello everyone, Stories Boss here. Let's begin. Hey guys, I've been compulsively lying for a huge portion of my life. Most, if not all of them, are about personal stories and things I've done in my past, or friends that don't exist. I think the core reason of why I do so is so that I seem cooler or more interesting than I really am. Whenever I catch myself doing it, it seems so stupid. I always fear that my lies are catching up to me, or people realize how full of shit I am. I'm sure they do. I've made it a note to stop this habit and be honest with myself. I'm average or less. It's not that big of a deal, really. I've started doing this since high school. Maybe even middle school. My lies have not been so extreme, but it really makes me feel bad in the end. I've been seeing this girl for a few months now, as friends, but kinda intimate, and I've realized that I've lied to her so much and was completely unnecessary. I've told her that I've been in a fight recently. I literally do not know why. I guess it was to seem tougher and to make her more interested. This is one that's been hurting me the most lately. I told her about some fights early in my life that didn't happen at all either. I've told her I've worked with producers and made some samples and bits together. This one was a stretch. I have seen some producers and engineers and chilled with them for a bit, but never really worked on anything with them. I've probably said a lot more that's not coming to mind right now. Honestly, it may not seem like a big deal, but I hate the fact that I do this. I'm trying to stop and confess here to make a note so that this will stop now. Sorry to the people who knew me and had to hear me spout on with my lies. This story made me think that a simple lie could always grow into a bigger one. We should stop pleasing people and just be ourselves so that we won't keep on blaming ourselves and wanting to be someone who would be lied to. I hope this person can continue to do something better in the future. Supervisor got shamed after I lectured him. Back in college, I worked for a retail store that is a national brand, but the particular location I worked at was very small. Often, there would just be 2 employees working. For those of you that haven't worked retail before, there are different tasks that you do as part of the job, depending on what you were scheduled for. For example, you can work on the sales floor helping customers. You can be scheduled at the register, in the fitting rooms, or you can be in the stock room, which was usually done early morning, or late at night, as it requires a bit of manual work, opening boxes, breaking them down, taking out trash, organizing the clothes that are in the back room, etc., which I never minded doing, but you can get pretty dirty doing it. One day, I came into work midday, and it was just me and a supervisor, Sheila. Sheila, if you're reading this, you suck. And Sheila was at the register ringing up customers as the other employee was leaving. I go to the back room, put away my stuff, and clock in. I notice a ton of boxes in the back from inventory shipments that didn't get processed in the morning. Well, I'll be on the sales floor. I come out to the sales floor to check in with Sheila for sales goals, etc. So after she gives me all that info, she tells me that I need to be in the back to process shipment because they didn't get it done in the morning. I tell her that I'm not scheduled for it, and I'm also not dressed for it. I'm wearing a button-down shirt, dress pants, and dress shoes. And she tells me that neither is she. She's wearing a dress. And that's where she assigned me, and that's what I needed to work on. I buy a cheap t-shirt that was on sale for maybe $3 or so and head to the back. Then, malicious compliance kicks in. I look for the employee handbook and read through the part of what supervisors can and can't do. And there's a section in there that says something along the lines of, the active manager cannot be at the register. And because it's only Sheila and myself in the store, and I'm in the back, she would have to be at the register. So I called the phone at the registers and she answered, and I told her I was reading through the employee handbook and found this section, and I read the entire paragraph saying that active managers can't be at the register. She doesn't say anything and simply hangs up. I walk back to the front of the store, return the cheap t-shirt I bought, and get behind the register without saying anything. And Sheila storms off to the back to process the shipment in her pretty dress. This story is so relatable for a lot of workers out there, especially when the story started to talk about Sheila, his supervisor. We know a lot of us deal with this kind of headache at work, and I kind of love how this employee deals with it and shares what he experienced. This story makes sense by just sharing a short but revealing experience at work, and that's why I love it. 8 people hired to replace me, not even enough. The original owner of the business I worked for was amazing. I'll call him Larry. He cared about every employee and realized how much we helped the company with our respective positions. He had even let me go negative on my sick time once when I was hospitalized for a week following a double pulmonary embolism, with the agreement that I would work the time back, and I did, just painting a picture of how wonderful Larry was as our boss. Larry finally retired after 45 years of running the business and sold it to his son, who I'll call Eric. Most people know how bad an idea that is, but Larry thought his son could handle it. He couldn't at first, but that's another story. Eric thought I wasn't doing enough during working hours. Office job, dealing with inventory coming into a retail store. But what he failed to realize was that since I worked up there for 6 years and got familiar with the work, I was really efficient at the job. So much so that I had collected more responsibilities each year. Larry was one of the main people pushing for me to take on more each year, with immediate raises every time something was added. Eric didn't have the same mentality. Eric fired me for being inactive too long during the day, and another reason which isn't important here. Also, another story for another time. So I was really active for my last 3 days with deleting everything I had created for the company. It was all above and beyond work. So since I didn't ever go above and beyond, they didn't deserve to keep it. It was signs for products, pictures gathered for advertising, vendor contact information, a program I designed to keep organized and on time for invoices, and a manual I had typed up on how to do my job. They had an old version of my job instructions, but by that time they were practically obsolete, especially with all my extra duties collected over the years. In the 2 years I've been gone, they've had at least 8 people hired for my position who quit within a couple of months. I keep getting updates every few months from one of my friends in the office. I like the spirit of the person who wrote this. It tells us that if one can't understand your worth and how important you are, just make them realize it in a way that you should. This is simple, just an experience, but it speaks for a lot of some people out there being in a situation where you're not being valued for your hard work and perseverance. Too wise to be blamed. This happened when I was in first grade. It was afternoon and all of the students were cleaning the backyard of the school. Further than that is a garbage dump where all of the trash of the school is thrown. It was huge. This was a Christian school, by the way. A boy told everyone that there is a snake lurking, so they all began to throw rocks at the big dump since we were all kids and gullible. I wanted to join the fun, so I got a fist-sized rock and threw it in the air. As a kid, not knowing about trajectory, the rock landed exactly on a boy. Let's call him Jasper. I approached him to see if he's okay. His head was already bleeding. Nobody saw me throw the rock. Only me and him knew I was the suspect. My heart was pumping rapidly, almost as if I had killed someone. I quickly ran back to my post and pulled some grass so I could pretend nothing happened. Another kid noticed Jasper and approached him. He told the teachers that I did it. The teachers doubted him as he is a naughty boy. I bet you're thinking, nah, you're gonna get caught. But no, I wasn't. In our school, we have a hierarchy of the smartest kids being tagged as kind, behaved, and respected, while less intelligent kids are foreshadowed and unnoticed. I was one of the smartest kids in the school, so I used my privileged perk to escape sentences. The teachers turned a blind eye on me since I was peacefully pulling grass and being a good boy, or so they thought. When it was over, I quickly grabbed my bag and went home fast. I was stopped by a lot of students demanding that I must apologize for what I've done. Ha! They don't have proof! I didn't tell my parents about it. I was sweating a lot at the time during the process. Back at school, our teacher just told us to be careful and went on teaching like nothing happened. I know some people would actually say, how could this kid be one of the smartest kids in class when he just carelessly threw a fist-sized rock in the air, assuming that no one could get hit by it, and doesn't know how to take responsibility for what he did? But people who thought of it that way would probably do the same thing the kid did if they were in his situation. You know, the smartest ones actually does some of the dirty things. He knew he wouldn't get caught since they had no proof, and if you were silent, you would confess what you did thinking you'd get caught without realizing that they had nothing to prove you're the suspect. They talked so much about me for living in Texas. I guess I'll begin by saying I'm 25-year-old female, and I'm from Texas. One of my friends lives in New Jersey, and she recently got married. I flew up from Texas, and there were over 100 people. I was the only one from Texas. So during the night, I was talking to some people at the wedding, and they asked me where I'm from, and I mentioned that I'm from Texas. Their moods changed with me almost right away. Some of the men and women both started talking to me about guns and how Texas people are, mentioning the border and rednecks, etc., acting like they should be wary of me, just coming right at me with a bunch of stereotypes. It was shocking for me to hear them and see how they were acting differently towards me after this. I'm a kind of big girl with a couple tattoos, and one of the women asked me if I've been in a fight in a saloon before. I feel like I'm out of myself by mentioning this, but on the other hand, I wasn't ready for their reactions either. TLDR, today I effed up by mentioning to people at my friend's wedding that I'm from Texas and had them coming at me with a bunch of stereotypes. I don't know which is better, Texas or New Jersey. Maybe they were insecure about where you live. Google says here that Texas is cheaper and has a higher unemployment rate, which makes this place more people lived in. Not sure about this. Anyway, don't mind them. It won't make them rich or make their lives better. People who talk a ton to others are most likely sad and alone.